So this is Let's Talk Southwest Florida podcast, and today we're with John Lai. If you guys don't know who this guy is, you better listen up because you're an important part of Sanibel Captiva, and it's the chamber of Sanibel.
Right? It is Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce. And
so we're going to dive into some questions, but first I'm going to read off this. I hope you don't mind because this is not script. I'm going to read a little bit something at the top about you. With over 30 years of experience in the hospitality and tourism and more than 3 decades as a Lee County resident, John brings unmatched insight into both the challenges and opportunities. And yeah, there's been a lot of challenges and opportunities our community faces and embraces. And, moving forward with and everything just to make it better. His impact reaches far beyond Sanibel Captiva as the current board chair of Visit Florida. Maybe we can talk on that a little bit. And a leader in several regional organizations. He's been a very powerful advocate for tourism, local businesses, and post-Ian recovery. That's big. But the whole thing is big in my mind. Whether you're a longtime resident, visitor who treasures our islands, or someone curious about the heart and future of Sanibel Captiva, today's episode is for you. It's for you, for all of us. John, thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to dive right into the first question. Can you start by introducing yourself and your role at the chamber? We've kind of touched on that a little bit.
We sure have.
Go in a little bit more.
Sure. No, I like you mentioned, a longtime Southwest Florida resident and a very proud one at that. I think that when we look at where Southwest Florida was when you and I were in high school and growing up here, to where it is now, there's so much to be excited about.
Yeah.
There's so much to be excited about in spite of what we've experienced the last 3 to 4 years. And there's so much to look forward to when we look at the future. And so our role at the Chamber is, as we talked about earlier, to make sure that the business community and the residential community are not at odds, but collaborating with one another to make sure that what's good for one is good for the other.
Yeah.
And so when we look at Sanibel Captiva as business and residential communities, it's realizing that 70% of the islands are in conservation. That's a good thing for both, right?
I don't think people realize that.
Well, that's a huge deal, and it's there for perpetuity.
Yeah.
When we look at the fact that the tourism-driven economy is good for both the residential and the business community, that's a good thing. We need to make sure we tell that story and communicate that. And then when we tell the story that what's natural is connected directly to our business community. So our ecology is our economy.
Yeah.
That's something that has to be told to our businesses and our residents, and they get it.
Yeah.
And so, our role at the Chamber is to make sure from an advocacy perspective that we are represented in both Tallahassee and DC and in downtown Lee County.
Yeah.
And then from a destination marketing perspective is to get our name out there, to make sure that people think of Sanibel Captiva first when they think of a tropical destination to visit.
Yeah.
And have a great time with their family.
Have you ever been anywhere in Florida that reminds you of Sanibel Captiva?
No, and I tell people I've got the best job in the world because of that. It is a community that not only embraces, the residents embrace the businesses, and the businesses embrace the quality of life that we've grown to protect, and we've fought like heck to put in place these guardrails to make sure that it doesn't look like anywhere else in Florida.
Yeah.
I think the closest thing I can think of is Amelia.
Yeah.
I think of that as South Georgia almost, but
the
closest thing is that.
Yeah.
But it is the most unique and special place in the world to me.
Yeah, it's cold up in Amelia though.
It sure is.
Yeah.
So they got snow this year. They don't compare.
Yeah. They don't compare.
Exactly right.
It's on the other coast too.
Exactly.
We're more laid back.
I mean, you don't get the sunsets that we do.
It doesn't get the sunsets and our waters, everything. I know you're a big water guy because I've seen you on the boat.
Yep.
And you and your wife. And, it's a special part of our community. People think about our beaches, but our water, and that's why water quality is such a big deal.
Sure
and
is.
I know it's a big deal with you, and it's a big deal with the Chamber and our islands. Next question. You've been in the hospitality and tourism space for decades. What drew you to this industry and specifically to Sanibel Captiva?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, managing resorts in Florida has been a big part of my life, as you mentioned. For decades, that's what I've done. It's what I've grown to love, and so the majority of that has been here in Southwest Florida. Well, when you're when you're doing that, it is rewarding in its own sense, but you realize that the things that make it so special are the things that you want to fight to protect. And so my transition to the chamber was a natural one. It was one that I realized that, I can still be in the tourism and hospitality space, but fighting to protect those industries as opposed to fighting to really just outperform myself on a balance sheet.
Yeah.
Right. And so transitioning from one job to the other felt natural.
Yeah.
It felt right. And I think that the sense of purpose that this gives me is you wake up every morning excited about what's next, right?
Yeah.
Excited to get up and fight the good fight because our future generations depend on it. And so really think that this has been just a true calling.
Yeah.
And when you look at Sanibel Captiva, I mean, as someone who's grown up here, my wife and I had our first real date out there. I proposed to her on the causeway. We got married on the islands. Our first vacation with our son was on Sanibel. And so it's more than just a physical location that we love. There's a real emotional attachment to
magical.
it as well. It is.
It's
absolutely
magical. And that's what I
Yes.
always hear from my clients and my friends that have such an attachment for Sanibel and Captiva. How can you not if you know Southwest Florida? It's magical. And even though we've gone through what we've gone through over the last so many years with these storms, and hopefully we're just in a little bit of a cycle and we won't see them for a long time. But I think also, too, you can't beat us. So even though we have these storms, we're going to come back always, and we're going to come back bigger and better. We do have challenges that we go through, but I think only to make the islands that much better
Absolutely.
in the end. So
I remind myself a lot of rebuilding the hotels I managed after Hurricane Charlie.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people forget that those were years that we had very similar patterns. Where
Yeah.
we had 6 or 7 storms,
yeah,
just one after the other, coming at Florida. And so I do think it's cyclical. I do think it's a pattern.
Yeah.
I do think that we'll build back more resiliently, and
Yeah.
we'll learn from them.
Yeah.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. And
Yeah.
I think that this is an impetus for change.
Yeah.
And it's a good one.
Well, hospitality, I would think that the chamber in your role is like the pinnacle of hospitality in my mind. I mean, like you said, it's one thing with resorts and hotels and balance sheets, but you're truly, like you said, a calling to give back, to help the community in so many ways, and you've been a great leader at that. And I've watched you over this time, and we're happy to have you in Southwest Florida doing what you're doing, fighting for the community, and just your leadership under the chamber of Sanibel and Captiva. Next question. This is pretty easy because I see you in the boat. What do you enjoy most about living in Southwest Florida?
You hit the nail on the head. It's the connection that we have with the water.
Yeah.
Right? It's the ability to take a day and go fishing. It's the ability to on the way home from work decide that you want to take the family out for a sunset cruise.
Yeah.
It's the ability to just sit on a beach
Yeah.
and detach for a minute or two or a day.
Where do you like to go to the beach?
Oh gosh, where don't I like to go?
I mean, I know that we've got
Yeah,
Sanibel and
yeah,
Captiva.
I
You're
mean,
there every day.
So-
but to get away.
To get away, maybe North Cap, so I don't go too far.
Yeah.
But to be able to, as we talked about, even if we didn't have a boat, to get on someone else's boat or get on a Captiva cruise and go to North Captiva
Yeah.
or Adventures in Paradise. But for me, it's I think that Sanibel Captiva, North Captiva, Usepa, Cayo Costa, all of those islands are just gems
Yeah.
in Southwest Florida that quite frankly you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go on a 30-minute boat ride and feel like you're in another country sometimes, you don't find that very often. But for me, that's where I find my happy space. I mean,
Yeah.
you spend the morning fishing and the afternoon just relaxing.
I
Can't
think
beat that.
I think we've got so great, incredible days ahead of us, incredible years
We
ahead of
really
us
do.
for this area. Everything gets built up and developed, but not Sanibel and Captiva.
No.
What you see is pretty much what you get. Yeah, we might have to redo some things, and there might, but we still have those restrictions that are in place and those guidelines that we have to follow, and that's what makes it so special. And then your outer islands too, Cayo Costa and North Captiva. I mean, Cayo Costa, we've got a state park there, and I don't think people realize that.
No. I mean, camping at Cayo Costa
pretty amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
It
I was
really
on the
is.
beach the other day at Cayo Costa, and just the water was so beautiful. And Mother Nature has brought a lot of the beach back up there because it took a beating itself. A lot of people don't understand that because a lot of people don't see it. A lot of people don't get out on the boat to see that beauty of our area in Southwest Florida, but to see that beach getting wider again by Mother Nature, pretty
Yes,
special.
It is.
You know, we talk about that. Captiva is Lee County. Sanibel is incorporated. And on your laptop, it's 50 years anniversary of Sanibel being incorporated.
Pretty special.
Pretty special.
We're doing some fun stuff this year to celebrate that. You know, we're bringing back the 4th of July fireworks. And what's, you know, this is off topic a little bit, but May 1st is the target date for the causeway to reopen.
Yeah.
And so those beaches will be ready to go on 4th of July. And so to celebrate the 50th in that manner feels right.
Are we
Feels
back with our
special.
parade? I mean, I know we're
Parade in the morning. Fireworks
so,
at night.
You know, and that parade is not just for the community of Sanibel and
No.
Captiva. It's for Southwest Florida. And we do get a lot of people coming out for that parade from Fort Myers and surrounding areas because it is a special parade and a fun parade.
It is.
So that's what's...
I mean, when you close down your main road for half of the span of it, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we not only open it up to the public, we need the public there.
Yeah.
We need Lee County to show up, and we need Southwest Florida to show up and be a part of that because it's what makes it special.
It's a cool parade. My daughter's
Yes.
birthday's on 4th of July, so I don't
wow.
get to make it a lot of times because we celebrate that, whether it's here or somewhere else we celebrate. But I'm going to try to go this year if I'm
It'll
in
be
town.
fun. You should put a float in there.
When I first got in the business of real estate, I was with VIP Realty and great people over there still to this day, even though I'm with Royal Shell, another great company, great
Sure.
people there too. We got great people on the island and the businesses and the realtors, all that good stuff. But I don't know if you know this, I was Uncle Sam in the parade. They put me in an Uncle Sam outfit and I was in the parade. And then my daughter, Sydney, I think she was Miss VIP. She had a little tutu on, a little, dress on for the parade. It was fun.
I can't think of a better way to celebrate the 50th by having Uncle Sam come back.
Yeah. Well, I had hair back
want
then.
to plant that seed. we can make that happen.
Yeah. But fun stuff to hear. And then the fireworks, is that going to be held at where they were always held, right at almost the foot of the bridge?
They will, yes. So
Yeah.
great viewing off of Bailey Road and in the dunes, and then from the causeway, just be phenomenal.
That's
It
awesome.
really
The causeway is looking fantastic.
It is.
I mean, I was talking to one of my
I'm really
clients the other
excited.
day. I was like, I know there's a lot of beautiful causeways around the country, but I don't know about, it's just magical. It's beautiful. Whether you're crossing it to come over or you live on the bay and you're looking at it day and night.
It
It's just
sets the
gorgeous.
tone for when
It
you're
really
going to the
does.
island. It really gets you ready emotionally, kind of
Yeah.
physically, and you're prepared. Man, I'm going to have a great time no matter what.
When I first
Yeah.
started working on the island as a realtor, one of my clients said, Mike, hitting that causeway is like having a shot of Jack Daniels on an empty stomach. And I'm like going, never heard that one
Yeah,
before.
that's a good one. No.
But that's a good one.
No doubt.
So next question, outside of work, what does a perfect day on the islands look like for you?
Gosh, I mean,
That's outside of work.
yeah, outside of work, it depends on the time of year, Mike. It could be biking down to the lighthouse,
Yeah.
grabbing breakfast on the island, and then hopping on the boat and cruising up to Captiva, and just enjoying the night, enjoying the day there, but for a perfect day in this, let's say a perfect day on the island is waking up, taking a bike ride to the lighthouse, watching the sun come up, because we're one of those unique orientations where you can see the sun come up over the water and then watch the sunset over the water.
Yeah,
So,
that's
gorgeous. Why wouldn't you do that if you're going to spend a full day on the islands, grab breakfast, lunch, take a bike, and never get in the car? And that's, to me, that would be my perfect day. Take a nap under a tree somewhere.
Yeah.
Go back to a hotel room and then rejuvenate and
Yeah.
grab beauty for me, and I like food. Sanibel has so much great food, and Captiva has really unique spots that you can go and eat and watch the water, you know.
And we've got a lot of them open right now.
Yes,
it's
we
not
do.
like we don't
Yeah.
have restaurants open. People
No.
ask, are the restaurants back? Things like that. Where's one of your favorite spots? I know there's a bunch of them.
Yeah,
but
I
where's
mean,
one of the favorite spots you have?
You can't beat Grandma Dot's
Grandma
for the
Dot's
view,
is awesome.
right? I mean, like you're watching dolphins
Yeah.
play in the water. I love the Green Flash for the same reasons.
Yeah, Tim McGowan's done a fantastic job up there.
Absolutely. I will tell you, and I'm going to say this. It's a little known secret, but Shima
Yeah.
at Sundial.
Is it good?
Holy smokes!
You know, and that's owned by Royal Shell.
It is.
And the Roberts family.
If you like steakhouse, Japanese steakhouses, and I love them.
Yeah.
That's the best I've ever had.
Yeah.
Hands down.
That's fantastic.
Hands
I'm going to go.
down. Yeah.
I'm going to go.
It is, and you talk about a great experience, right?
Yeah.
So you can go kind of have a meal, and not just a meal, but an experience, and then go out and watch the sunset on the beach. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't get that anywhere else.
And the Sundial is open.
It is.
It's back open. So
It is
for the
140 something
locals, for
rooms
people, across the state or coming down from the north, I mean, stay at the
day
Sundial.
pass. Yeah.
We got great restaurants there.
Absolutely.
All their restaurants are open, I believe. The pickleball's fantastic there. You got golf close by. It's a great place to, first come to the island or revisit.
Right. And
So-
and they're adding rooms every month. I think
Yeah.
they're up to 147 rooms right now. So
people
that's-
don't understand that when those rooms and those beds start coming back, and they're going to start coming back over the coming months, and by hopefully 2026 we'll have a lot of them back. That's going to bring a lot of energy to Sanibel and Captiva.
What's really nice is that we've actually got over 54% of the island resort rooms reopen. That's not including vacation rentals. So
Yeah.
you add those in, and it's probably closer to 65, 70%.
Yeah.
And then we've got some really cool ones coming online this year as
Yeah.
well. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's some things to be excited about coming down the pipe.
Yeah, there is some new development as far as, but up to the codes and up to the guidelines of Sanibel and Captiva, and they're coming back, and they're coming back beautiful.
Exactly.
We've got, I think, is it Shalimar?
Shalimar is going to be the first new build out of the ground
Man, that
that's
looks
completed in like 55 years or
Yeah,
something
Joyce
like that.
Owens is involved with that.
They're
Incredible
done a great
architect,
job.
designer. I know Stevens Construction. I think they're the builder on that.
They are. They're also the builder on what used to be Beachview Cottages.
Yeah.
It's now White Pelican, I believe. And,
Yeah.
and so that'll come out of the ground. It's already coming out of the ground. It'll be finished season next year. So between Shalimar and White Pelican, we'll have two brand new, from the ground up resorts. We haven't had that happen in over 50 years. So
Yeah.
it'll be really exciting
That's
to see.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, talking about what you enjoy on the island, that's always fun to do. And like I said, I see you out there on the boat, so keep enjoying that boat.
Gonna
Can
try.
you share some current trends you're seeing in tourism on Sanibel and Captiva? We just talked about a couple of the resorts.
What's really interesting is since Ian, we obviously track our website that sees over 2 million people a year. And what we've seen is a shift in demographic. And our top demographic used to be 65 plus.
Yeah.
Our top demographic now, since Hurricane Ian, is 55 to 64. So we're seeing it trend younger. What's interesting is that the 45 to 54 age bracket has really started to climb. And so they're almost neck and neck with the 65 plus. So we're starting to see a real shift. I think that historically, Sanibel and Captiva were known for kind of lazy vacations. You'd go, unplug, the streets roll up at 7:30 at night, you go to bed, wake up the next morning at 4 o'clock to go shelling.
Yeah.
A lot of that's still true, but we're finding a lot more of adventure seekers out there that want to go biking, want to hike Ding Darling, want to get in a kayak and go fishing and things like that. And so, generationally, I think that this plays into that adventure-seeking traveler. And even the 65-plus demographic, they're not sedentary the way that we're used to the islands being promoted. They want to get out. They want to walk the beaches. They want to get on bikes. And now with Class 1 e-bikes allowed on the bike path and the shared use path, we're seeing the older generations be able to go further on those.
Yeah.
It's really kind of fun.
We do have the miles per hour stop signs.
You saw those, yeah.
The signs.
If
to
you can
keep your-
pedal 15 miles an hour, that's the max. I don't have to worry about that on
I
a
haven't seen
regular.
that in too many communities. So that's just, again, what Sanibel does different.
Exactly.
And how special the islands are. But you're right, though. People think about Parks and Rec and in Lee County, what do we have to do? I mean, if you're not going to the beach or at that, there's so much to do. Like you said, hike Ding Darling.
Yes.
How many people have actually gone through Ding Darling? I know when I first got into business, my brother said, how's it going out there on the island? Because I grew up in Fort Myers and, just like your wife and her brothers and all that. And you pretty much too. But, he said, did you go through Ding Darling yet? And I said, no. And he goes, well, how can you sell the island if you don't know the island?
Right.
And he's correct. So I went in there and fully dressed and sweat my butt off and, walked around Ding Darling and all that kind of stuff. But it's special, the bird life and just the nature and the wildlife, our vegetation, everything about it. And like you said, biking. I mean, where can you go from east to west and get on a bike all the way around the island?
It's a pretty cool place to do that stuff. And I think, what COVID did was it got people wanting to go outside more, right? And it started that trend of spending time walking your neighborhoods and finding things to do in fresh air.
Yeah.
And thankfully, that stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that what we've realized is that there's just so much more to see than the beach. While the beach is incredible, if you just go off the beaten path for 10 minutes, you'll see hundreds of species of birds and tortoises and things that I took for granted growing up, quite frankly.
Huge woodpeckers.
Apparently, yes.
Go for tortoises.
Exactly. And so, this has turned into kind of an adventure seeker's playground, which has been really fun to watch, right? You've watched it go from, we can go sit on the beach for 5 days and do as little as possible, to we can still sit on the beach for 5 days, but we're gonna sprinkle in some really cool interactive experiences as well. And so we're seeing that younger demographic come down. We're seeing that younger demographic shop our website more often, and certainly turn into long-term guests, which, as you and I know, was historically the bread and butter of Sanibel, where the grandparents would bring the grandkids, and then those grandkids would turn into parents, and they'd turn into grandparents, and generational visitors would just stick. Yeah. And I think we're seeing the beginning of that again.
I think it's that next generation that's coming.
Absolutely.
And I know I've sold a couple homes to people lately, and they're young guys. Yeah. And we're from the 40s on up.
Yeah. Even our residents, exactly.
Yeah. And, a couple of them, even this in-town market of Fort Myers and in Lee County and Naples, we've got people that own property out there because they know how special it is. It's their getaway from all the hustle and bustle of Lee County and Collier County and all these close by areas, and they want to get away from that. Yeah, they've got the shopping, and we've got shopping too, but different type of shopping, different type of dining. You can get that anywhere. Sanibel is different.
It is.
And that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
So, next question. Are there any new businesses, restaurants, or attractions that locals and visitors should know about? I always love hearing about new things coming to Southwest Florida, Lee County, and then the islands. The islands don't change too much, but new things coming up, things that are coming back. Yeah. Can you touch on that?
Sure. I mean, there's, from our perspective at the Chamber, it's a lot of new iterations of old favorites. So, when you drive down to the East End, that plaza, you've got Wikis, which is a collaboration of the ownerships of Island Cow and Mad Hatter got together and opened Wikis. And then they opened Magic Bus, which is that ice cream shop down there that sells ice cream and coffee. And
that's the East End Village down by the lighthouse.
Right.
And people don't realize there is a little village down there that you can also enjoy.
And then Bell Bagels, which is across the street, has become a breakfast favorite as well. And that's the owners of Dante's that had been there before the storm. And so, some really cool new looks of places that you've grown up to love. Retail, you've got Rachel Pierce. She's fantastic. Oh my gosh. She's got all kinds.
Now she's got her furniture store.
Exactly. She's got a pet paradise store that you can go shopping for your pet. When you get home, you've got something for the
her and her husband.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They're opening a coffee shop, and so when you start looking around Periwinkle, the buildings look the same, but the stores are very different, and then you've got Adventures in Paradise just opened Little Adventure in Tahitian Gardens. your old favorites over at old Sanibel shops, that Over Easy and Suncatcher's Dream and J-Rods and On Island, all of those folks will be moving over to the Village shops, which will be really fun.
Yeah.
You're going to have more of an intimate feel where you can kind of just stand in the middle and look around at all the stores that you love, and rather than having to walk kind of in a linear line to get to them, they're all going to be kind of an arm's length there. So we're really excited about that. When we start looking at all of these things that are happening, the old favorites that are coming back, and then when you start thinking about the collaborations that are happening, like the wikis and things like that, there's so much to be excited about.
Congress Jewelers,
they came back their first day back on island was our Luminary event on Sanibel, which was cool on the first Friday of December last year. They reopened, brighter, it feels bigger. I mean, everything about it is brand new.
I went in there and I was like so happy that day. I was so excited, and I'm like, we're back.
There's an energy
back. And the more we see that
every time something opens, there's an energy.
We just need to keep that energy going.
Absolutely.
We keep that energy going, this island will come back a lot quicker and better.
And then, I'm excited about the Shell Museum finishing their Great Hall of Shells, which will happen, which will happen later this year. And so, all the attractions are building back better. Not just as they were before, but adding on. Coming back with new items, coming back with new menus with the restaurants. And then retail is just, we've got some really special stores. And for people who don't know, I mean, Sanibel, it's all boutique, right? There's not a chain store out there. And if there are, they started there. So Chico's, that's a really fun story, right? The very first Chico's is in Periwinkle Place. It's back open. So about, we're looking at over 50% of our retail, 50% of our restaurants are open, and about 55% of our hotel rooms are open right now. We're looking at 60% by the end of this month. So
that's great.
Excited.
2026 is going to be a great year.
2026, we will be around 70% of our hotel rooms. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Feel the energy. It's going to be It's going to be so much better. What's something about Sanibel and Captiva you think more people should know or appreciate? We talked about the 70% conservation preservation. So people talk about development, and people are always worried about development, but that's not going anywhere. That's not going anywhere.
The Sanibel plan has outlined that 70% of the island stays in conservation for perpetuity. And we recognize a couple things with these storms. That's what saved a lot of us. I mean, the fact that it was not overdeveloped is what really, saved us from even more devastation than we saw. The lesson to be learned there is the fact that we've got to make sure that stays protected. Right? Do we need to? We'll take the Sanibel plan and keep what's good in it forever. And then I think that there's some things that we will amend to make things even more resilient moving forward. When 50 years ago when they wrote the Sanibel plan, they didn't ever account for events like this happening. And so the beauty of Sanibel right now is the humility of its leaders and the fact that they understand that some things need to change for us to continue to move forward and keep the trajectory moving up and to the right. And so that's really exciting. But as you mentioned, the 70% conservation land, not a lot of people realize that that's intentional. Like that is, and not only is it intentional, but it's locked in for perpetuity. It's there. So what you see is what you get. Really. Out there.
I love it.
The low-rise buildings, intentional.
I think with these storms, the importance of mangroves.
Absolutely.
How people, they didn't maybe understand how important they truly are to our barrier islands and, our shorelines, all that. And we have to maintain, protect that, and even replant that as much as possible.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and we talk about things that you should know about Sanibel. It probably offers one of the greatest fallen tourism opportunities that out of any other community I've ever seen. And by that, I mean, we see groups of people and families coming down to the islands for days or weeks at a time to help.
To volunteer.
To just help plant mangroves, to help with beach cleanups, to help with oyster reefs. And it's part of not only that experiential component that you and I talked about earlier, but it's their way of giving back to an island that's given so much to them. Right? They think about that was where my grandma and grandpa first had their first vacation. They brought us down as parents, and now we're bringing our kids down, and so it's become this trend that we hope sticks.
I love seeing that. Driving down St. Cap Road the other day, I was watching people just doing vegetation cleanup, but also too replanting down by Chateau Semer and Sea Spray, and just people out there helping and volunteering, and that's that community.
SCCF has done a phenomenal job of putting that programming together and really building it as an alternative to CrossFit.
Yeah.
You've got 2 5-gallon buckets filled with stuff.
I need to get out there. I need some exercise.
I know. That makes 2 of us. Let me know when you're going.
What are some of the Chamber's current priorities? That's a big question right there.
We always want to do everything. And we can't. We've got a staff of 3, including myself. And so for us, it's very important that we continue to focus on our mission, right? To protect the quality of life on our island, to promote the prosperity of our members. And as long as we stick to those 2 things, and we are in good shape. But to answer your question more directly, when I first came back on island, I keep going back to this page in my journal that I kept. I had written 5 to 7 years, 50%. And that's what, in talking to some of our folks at the county and at the state, it's kind of their projection was we would get to about 50% of what we were in 5 to 7 years, based on what they saw at Mexico Beach and other disasters. And so our mission has been to shorten that recovery timeline as much as we can. And I can honestly say that we're very excited to say that when we look at all the businesses across the island, we're at 50%.
Yeah.
We've just hit that about 4 months ago, and so we're 2.5 years in now.
Yeah.
And so if we've had any part in that, we've got to continue keeping our foot on that gas pedal. What that takes is really a lot of collaboration with our local and state governments, with our non-government organizations, and other nonprofits to not only help get all the resources that we can, but get all the capital equity that we can as well there.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that is, without the quality of life on that island, the businesses don't thrive.
Yeah.
And so, we've got to make sure that all of that gets protected.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day from an organization I don't want to say, but it's a great organization, and they do so much for the community. But the way they did business before the storms and the way they're doing now their business is only to help protect and preserve and to be ready if we ever do have anything happen, like storms or whatever it might be. So again, the island's gotten better in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, it has. I mean, I think the most important thing that we can do right now is after the storm, we went from expectation management on our website and our messaging and everything else. We're at a point right now where we can shift from expectation management to showcasing the beauty of our island.
Yeah.
And so, our biggest fear was we've got to let people know before they get here what they're going to see.
Yeah.
Right. We can't let it be a shock factor to them. Now it's the opposite. Now it's a positive shock factor where they come back and it's 2.5 years later and they're like, man, we are just blown away by how great things look right now.
Yeah.
We're finding that in our visitor center, we're averaging about 110 people a day through those doors. That is, by and large, the message that we're getting from them, which is, my goodness, we were here a year ago, and we never would have thought that we would have made this much this much improvement in 1 year.
I always say, everything you come here for,
yes,
it's still here.
Absolutely.
It's never left. Our water, our beaches, our community. I mean, the community of Sanibel Captiva, the community of Southwest Florida in general has been strong and together and all that. But Sanibel Captiva's got a special community, and it showed from day one, from the storms and where we are today and where we're heading to.
Yeah.
I did live on the island. I'm a realtor, and people think realtors pro-development. Not on that island. We got a special community in our real estate community, and we never forget those people that were there before us. And I think we've got a great group of realtors on the island. There's a great group of realtors everywhere, but on that island, special group, special community, and they understand and they appreciate what our community is about. And we're really not about development. We're about selling homes and selling people their own slice of paradise.
Right.
And, there's a price to pay for that in a lot of ways. But again, the community's fantastic and just proud to be part of it. And I raised my family there for a little bit. But again, I was from Fort Myers, and I grew up in Fort Myers and raised my kids there. But I work and love and appreciate and enjoy Sanibel Captiva just like you
It's
do.
hard. You're hard pressed to find a better place to work, live, and play.
Yeah.
I mean,
Safe.
and exactly. and if you can live anywhere, and let's face it, in today's world, with technology and the work environment allowing you to do a lot of remote work, you absolutely can live, work, and play anywhere that you want to. And why not there? Why not there?
And
I can't think
Sanibel
of a reason
Captiva,
not.
I mean, Mother Nature's everywhere.
Exactly.
We've seen that all throughout the news in a lot of different
My wife
places.
and I have that
heaven
conversation.
forbid. But, again, building back more resilient and, all that and coming back, we'll do it in the right ways. Are there any upcoming initiatives or events the Chamber is especially excited about? I know there's 4th of July.
Yeah, no, the 4th of July is going to be a big deal. When we look at some of the things that we are going to be promoting this year, 4th of July, like you mentioned, you wake up in the morning, get to the parade.
Yeah.
Right? Make sure that you, I don't know if you're familiar with the road rally.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, yeah. There's a road rally that you can participate in. There's and then you get wrapped up with that, and you go to the golf course or the causeway and watch the fireworks. I mean, what a great way to spend a day. We also will have our Luminary event this year again.
That's fantastic.
That's exciting. We have our Islands Night event coming up, which is at the baseball stadium here in Lee County, the Twin Stadium, and we'll finish that with fireworks as well on May 7th, so that's exciting. But, when we start talking about, so those are events that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
We'll be putting the time capsule back into the ground at the end of the year on our 50th anniversary day. November 4th last year, we pulled the time capsule out and brought out all the items that were in there, and they're on display right now at the museum. But we'll be putting that back into the ground with some items from right now. So from our 50th anniversary.
Now, when you say the museum, what museum?
Sanibel Historic Museum. Thank you. Yeah, Sanibel Historic Museum. All of the items are on display there, along with the time capsule, and they'll be there until we put it back in the ground. So I'm really excited about that. But some initiatives that we're working on that I'm really excited about. One of them is our Preserving Paradise Leadership Cohort that we've partnered with Captains for Clean Water and SECF and Everglades Foundation to put together a leadership program to really educate our business owners and leaders throughout Southwest Florida on the importance of protecting the ecology, because it's so closely tied to economy.
Yeah.
And I think that's just been a story that we've not done a good job of telling as a community. And so we kicked off our first year last year with 25 graduates. Kyle DeChico was one of them, and you had him on your last podcast. But, to have spokespeople out there from the business community talking about the importance of water quality to their businesses. It helps us set up the next generation for success, and I think that's something that I've never been more proud of in all of the work that we've done. We've got a Live, Work, and Play campaign where we're going to be showcasing all of the great reasons that Sanibel Captiva are a great option to do the things that you can do in any community. Why not Paradise?
Yeah.
Right? Why not choose there?
Yeah.
And then our Sanibel Solutions Dashboard, which is something that we've partnered with CFI and the city and FGCU to come up with, where we can help collect data, display the data that we've collected for not only city officials, but the entire community, businesses and residents alike, where they can track our progress.
Is that some of the things you have on the
Yeah,
little
they'll
laptop,
be
right?
able to see the economic impact that we're making and the improvements that we're making, the tourism. So you can track causeway count by month on here compared to pre-EN numbers. You can track visitor center traffic from pre-EN numbers. You can track residential home sales, condo sales, vacant lot sales, permitting. You can see how that's moving, and it is, a lot of it is great news. It's all up and to the right, right, where we can see these things are happening over. Permitting is a little over 2 days, or in some cases, just depending on the permit, it could be as much as 7, but it's moving at a relatively good clip for us. Community service, looking at library visitors, historical village visitors, and then tracking the residents are back on island, which is really exciting. Those numbers are continuing to climb. And so we want to make sure that the community can see tangibly in real data that is verifiable the progress that's being made on Sanibel Island, and the idea that 3 years or 2.5 years in, that we are shortening the timeline from where we thought we would be.
Yeah. It's great that you're collecting that data, because a lot of times, I mean, especially with the traffic, it's hard to collect that data with the traffic, because you got a lot of construction going on.
Absolutely.
And a lot of day trippers with just construction and improvements and things like that. But to get the data from other places, whether it's the Shell Museum and things like that, it really brings a lot of good information.
And what's great about this traffic count is it's the traffic counter that sits outside the chamber. So it's not counting the traffic that has been working on the causeway.
Yeah.
I think that if we look at that, because you're right, when people sit in the causeway traffic, they go, man, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the beauty of this is May 1st, that causeway opens up, and now we're seeing people recreating on the causeway as opposed to heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And I think that changes the ambiance. You and I discussed it earlier of your arrival to the island, right? You're there. You've hit paradise. Now it's not a construction zone anymore.
And the parking on the causeway, from what I understand, it's going to be free.
It's going to be no charge.
No charge.
Yeah, they're going to open up, and there will be no charge for parking. We'll have 800 spots, combined on the 3 islands. So a little less than we had before, but I think that it'll be a lot more organized, which is great.
I think a lot better fishing on the causeway too, with some of the improvements that they've done.
They've put those rocks out there,
yeah.
so you've got structures now.
Yeah.
that you can fish on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things that it was painful, but things that are worth it are painful sometimes, right? And this is absolutely one of those, because not only was it a beautification project, it was a hardening project that the county did and the state did. So, should this happen again, that causeway is ready for it.
People talk about traffic, but you've got traffic everywhere in Southwest Florida. So when people say that to me, I'm like going, it's really not that bad.
I had to take a
You're
trip.
just stuck in one lane going off, and you're thinking
beauty on both sides.
Yeah, with beauty on both.
I was stuck on I-4 last week, and just
and then Naples.
Give me that causeway any day. Absolutely.
And then the drivers, they're crazy.
Exactly.
But not on the island.
No,
they're looking at pelicans fly by them and things like that, and dolphin going over the causeway. I mean, it's not too bad. A wait.
I think about the times that I've complained in the car and thought to myself, "What is wrong with me?" Right? It just doesn't get better than this.
Yeah. So, what are your goals for the future? Not just for the chamber, but maybe even beyond that within Southwest Florida.
Professionally, the goal is to get this rebuild complete. And when people ask, what does that look like? I think that when Bailey's opens its doors and we do that ribbon cutting, it's going to feel complete, right? This is it. And to get back to a thriving economy where we start looking at continuous improvement for those numbers year over year, and not keep benchmarking things to 2019.
Yeah.
That's my short-term goal anyways. For me, it's to continue to just enjoy where I live, right? I think that going back to what we discussed earlier, if you could live anywhere in the world, it would be somewhere that you could do the things you love on a whim while I'm here.
Yeah.
I just got to remember that I'm here, and I think you've reminded me a couple times to get on the boat.
Yeah.
We're given one life, right? So let's do those things while we can.
Yeah.
And so, watch my kids grow. They live in Tampa and St. Pete, and so they come down quite frequently, but for my wife and I, it's really just to enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And enjoy the place where we live. This is a special place. And like we discussed, I mean, if you could do one thing with your life, it would be, for me, it's to tell people how awesome our destination is.
Our community in Southwest Florida is.
Yeah. And I've been to just about every place in the state.
Yeah.
It's no place I'd rather be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. In your opinion, what does the next chapter look like for Sanibel Captiva? We've touched on a lot of that already.
Yeah.
But, what do you think?
There's a lot to be excited about this year, right? I mean, we've got a brand new causeway, which is the front drive to our islands. We've got all of these great hotels and restaurants reopening, I think the future just continues to, when we look short-term future anyways, continues to celebrate these wins, these small wins. When we look 10 years down the road, we're looking at brand new inventory in terms of hotel rooms, every single one of them.
Yeah.
You're looking at physical buildings that have been refurbished. So everything across that island is going to be brand new.
Yeah.
Right? So if we look 10 years down the road, still very good shape.
Yeah,
right?
very much so.
And I think that there will be very few communities in Florida that can say that.
Yeah.
Maybe Fort Myers Beach could say that. We could say that. And did it take something very hard for us to get to do that? Yeah, sure it did.
Yeah.
But is that something we're gonna sit back in 10 years and go, okay, we are proud of the way that we handled this? I think 100%. I think that the people that come to Sanibel now as visitors and residents are going to discover something that is going to be just the crown jewel of the state.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years.
Yeah. Again, magical.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the ongoing efforts to protect local wildlife and preserve natural resources?
Yeah, I'll go back to Preserving Paradise, which is
Yeah. that
group, the cohort that we've put together with Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation captains and Everglades Foundation. Our islands are a special place, and so when we start looking at what SCCF is doing in terms of making sure that the replantings happen, without the trees there on the island and the root system, the water can't be absorbed,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing to absorb the water when it comes
Yeah.
in. And that's what happened last year is that, there was such a lack of vegetation
Yeah.
that the root systems weren't there to absorb the water when it came in. So it flooded easier.
Yeah.
Well, when we start looking at what Ding and SCCF are doing to make sure that doesn't happen again, that will not only protect the citizens and the business community, but it'll protect the wildlife and protect everything else around it, which to me is a big deal and something you can't understate, right? But there were so many priorities coming off of Ian that replanting trees didn't seem...
Was it one of them?
It was, but maybe not that high on the list.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're getting back there now?
We're getting back there now. And so,
what can people do to help with that?
I think that understanding the importance of planting native, I think understanding the importance of not putting off landscaping, those are the things that if to answer your question, that's where I would go. But we understand, you're rebuilding your home. You might be waiting for insurance, and so not to get too in the weeds here, but it may not be financially a project you want to take on immediately, but certainly have it in a plan to replant the things that you're missing right now.
I think one year without a storm, I think you'll see a lot more people.
Absolutely.
But people outside the community with that might not own property on the island, but they enjoy the islands. What can they do to help? What can someone from across the bridge, someone that's a visitor to the area, what can they do to help? Because every little bit helps.
They can come out to the islands. They can support our islands. They can shop local. And this goes for Sanibel. It also goes for Fort Myers Beach. It goes for anywhere that's been impacted that's trying to rebuild right now. Support them.
Yeah.
Get out there. Do date nights there.
Yeah.
Right? Where it might be an extra 15-minute drive. Do it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because not only is it worth it, it's a beauty and a gem. It's worth it because it'll be there tomorrow for you, right?
Yeah.
And so, but without your support, I can't promise that, right?
Outside of that support, what are some organizations like SCCF?
Yeah.
Maybe Crow.
SCCF, Crow. We've got some great ones out there. We've got
because they need monies too.
Yeah, SCCF is Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation, and they're the largest landholder on the island, which is phenomenal. We talked about that 70% conservation. They own the majority of it. Yeah. And so they don't own it and neglect it. They own it and they make sure that the ecosystems are balanced. They make sure that the things that are needed for those lands are kept. And so without your support of those of that organization, they don't have the resources to do that. Yeah. Crow is I think the only wildlife hospital in our region. And it's located right there on Sanibel Island. And so you can take a walk through their hospital and do a tour and get to see the level of care that those patients get, that's special. It's in our backyard.
Yeah.
If you don't support it, they don't have the resources. Once again, even the Shell Museum, they have touch tanks and educational opportunities for middle, high school, lower school to come in and feel the resources, get in the resource, and understand this is what we're fighting so hard to protect. That's in our backyard. That's in our waterways, and so it's planting that seed in an early age. And so these are some really great organizations that you can get behind. Ding Darling is another one of them. That Wildlife Drive is part of a national refuge. But when you look at the foundation that supports that, right? It's incredible. The visitor center at Ding Darling walks you through the history of Ding Darling, and so these are organizations that, as we rebuild, are looking at a completely different donor base.
Yeah.
And so, to answer your question, you can support those organizations. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah, because like we talked about, demographics are changing a little bit on the island. There's some people that are leaving because they've experienced it for so long.
Right.
It's that next generation coming in. So that next generation coming in has to step up. And then also, too, the people that visit, the people that own but maybe don't call it their primary home, but they enjoy everything that the islands have to give. Those people have to give, too, give back to this community. And I know a lot of them do. I mean, a lot of us do. But you can never give enough. So give till it hurts.
Exactly.
And we've been hurting out there, and a lot of people have given, and all in Southwest Florida, though, not just the islands. But
no, agreed.
What role does water quality and conservation play in the long-term sustainability of the islands? We've touched on a lot of this, and I mean, that's what the islands are about.
I'll say it again. Without our water quality, our business community doesn't have a strong tourism base to back it.
Yeah.
Florida is a tourism-driven economy. It's the number one economic driver in the state. But let's face it, it's not the mouse. It's the fish.
Yeah.
Right? It's everything that we have that we're surrounded by.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the only state that's surrounded by 3 points of water if you don't count Hawaii, Puerto Rico. So I mean, in our continental United States, it's a big deal. And so we've got to make sure that we understand that's without protecting that asset, our economy dries up.
Yeah.
And so, but not only looking at dollars, it's quality of life. It's what you and I enjoy most about living in Southwest Florida. And Florida is the connection with the water. Yeah. Right? I mean, if you live even in East Fort Myers, you can still get to the water in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's accessible to everyone within our community.
There's so many great spots, like Cabbage Key, and even up in Boca Grande, Pink Elephant, that's part of Lee County. Boca Grande is part of Lee County.
It is.
Not all of it, but most
special.
of it. Yeah, it's special. And then the outer islands, Bokeelia and Matlacha and all those places to go by boat. I mean, when you really get out on the boat and you start to understand all that, the fish houses out in the water, how beautiful are those? Amazing. Yeah. I mean, getting out of the water, seeing the fish, the dolphins jumping, leaping out of the water. Pretty amazing.
It is.
Pretty amazing.
And I'm not a psychiatrist, but I know that there are studies that show what water does for your psyche.
Oh, yeah.
And your mental health.
Yeah.
And so I would tell anyone that water plays the most critical role for our quality of life in Florida, not just Southwest Florida, but certainly Southwest Florida. And then if they don't want to talk about quality of life, but they want to talk money and dollars and cents, it's what drives everyone here.
Yeah.
It's what absolutely controls our economy.
Yeah. I've been here 54 years.
You got
57.
Okay.
So I am part of that over 50 years in Southwest Florida, part of the group that celebrates.
You're our top demographic right now, by the way, looking at our website. So thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
But just really, I mean, I had gotten on the water as a kid, but not much, and then started my own career and life with my family, but never really got on the water. Just didn't really get out there and enjoy it.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah, and
it's a completely different place.
And before the storms, I bought a boat. And I said, you know what? What the heck have I been doing?
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Southwest Florida all over again. And I think that's what the water, like you're saying, does to you. Yeah. You fall in love with this area. And if you haven't experienced the water, boating, getting out on those barrier islands, the state park of Cayo Costa, and the restaurants like we talked about, Cabbage Key, Usepa, all those places.
Right.
It's world class. Our area is world class. And yeah, we've been beat up a little bit, but it is world class. It's going to be world class even more. And that doesn't mean development.
Right.
So
it means improvement. And,
yeah.
And honestly, when you look at the way that the nature has rebounded, it's rebounded faster than the developments have,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the greenery, the flora, and the fauna have all come back.
Yeah.
I mean, the dolphins were jumping a month and a half after,
Yeah.
when we were still reeling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of the beautiful parts of Southwest Florida, they never left. Sanibel,
I never saw more white pelicans after the storm.
So true. Yes.
I had never really seen white pelicans and paid attention to them. And all of a sudden, I was seeing them like crazy back in the Woodring area, back in, that area back there on the bay side. I'm like going, oh my gosh, there's like thousands
They're
of
showing
them.
up in Lakes Park.
Yeah.
They're showing up inland. It's great.
And then we had
It's
the
so much fun to
flamingos
see.
out on one of the islands. I'm like going, this is paradise.
It's funny, we still see them.
Yeah.
Just one or two, but they're still around.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
yeah.
Everything and everyone wants to be here.
And for anyone thinking of visiting, this is a big question. And for anyone thinking of visiting or moving to Sanibel Captiva, what would you tell them? We've already told them a lot.
It's still paradise, Mike.
Yeah.
Our website says it all. Just 2 words, still paradise.
Yeah.
Still have 70% conservation. Still have low-rise buildings, so nothing over 3 stories. Still 25 miles of bike trails. Still 15 miles of unspoiled beaches. Still over 400 species of shells. And still 0 traffic lights. Yeah. So the things that you loved about it 20 years ago, it's better now.
Yeah, it's better. It's still
better now.
here,
Yeah.
and it's better.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
John, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much for everything you do and highlighting, the chamber and your involvement. And if you want to know more, we can go to your website at the chamber, find out more about what the chamber does, what you can do to help support. And then also, too, touching on this Sanibel solution, because I know Brian Rist has been part of that too. Great
Sure
man.
has, yeah.
Great man for Southwest Florida. And he was telling me a little bit about that with the demographics and things bringing.
Brian
So-
Rist is on the CFI board, which is Charitable Foundation of the Island, and without their help and resources, we don't get the connectivity to FGCU that we have. And so
Yeah.
Brian Rist, for those of you who don't know, he founder of Storm Smart and now lives on the island,
Yeah.
is a very engaged citizen and probably one of the greatest people in our region. And so, certainly it has the best interests of Sanibel Captiva in mind. And so the Sanibel Solutions Group has gotten together to say, how can we help?
Yeah.
What do we need from a city perspective to help move the dial or to keep track of the dials, just to understand where we are in terms of rebuilding and restoration. And so from the Chamber's side of things, we are going to provide the data from the business community. We're going to take a look at some of the residential data. I'm meeting with Bill Robinson right after this from the SanCap Chamber. SanCap Realtors Association.
Yeah. Good man.
And he's going to give me some realtor data.
Yeah.
And so,
Incredible time to buy on the island.
Incredible time to buy on the island,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. And once again, I mean, I think there's actually snow in some of our northern states right now.
Oh yeah,
and
saw Jackson Hole. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, man.
I mean, it's like 89 degrees today is the high, and it was 70 when I woke up this morning to walk the dog. So, great time to buy on the island and be in Florida.
Even when it's warm here, you're in shorts and flip flops.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a 12-month shorts and flip flops
Yeah.
place to be. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it and really, really honored to have people like Brian Rist and Doug Congress and just everyone that's involved.
A lot
in
of
this
great
group.
guys out there. A lot of that
I mean,
next generation. We know a lot of them together, and there's more of them wanting to get involved and will get involved. And that's that next generation that's going to help Sanibel and Captiva become bigger and better. Not bigger, but better.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And city council they're 5 people.
Yeah.
And so we're just raising our hands saying,
Yeah.
put us in.
Yeah.
We can help.
Yeah. Well, we're behind you. We support you. You're doing a great job, John. Thanks for coming
Thank
in
you,
to
sir.
Southwest Florida Podcast.
Appreciate it.
And
Thanks
thank you
for having me.
for being one of those people and places that make Southwest Florida so special. You're one of those people, so thank you.
Going back at you. Thank you so much, Mike.